was a movie, and it started now, forget about whatever financial disasters you've had, personal failures, relationship failures. What would the hero of your life's movie do right now?
Hello and welcome to Dad's Dating After Divorce. My name is Jude Sandoval, the Divorced Advocate and the founder of the Divorced Advocate community. And my colleague here is...
my name is Ralph. I go by the pen name of DSO, which stands for Dad Starting Over. And you can find out more at dadstartingover.com or by reading one of my books, including the popular Dead Bedroom Fix.
God, every time you promote and I got to remember to do that. You're good at it. That's why you're killing it, man.
Well, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, no, definitely check that. Check out Ralph's stuff. A lot of great stuff. And we got a lot of good stuff today, Ralph. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Man, it's just 2022 was exciting and interesting. I know that you had some fantastic success with Dad Starting Over and your stuff, and so I just want to give you some kudos. And we started working together, and I'm pretty excited about the stuff that we're doing. And this podcast has just started to have just a ton of downloads, which has been really cool and exciting too. Good. So I guess that's confirmation that we're doing something right, or at least we're hitting on something that is a need out there. So
for sure,
that's good. So today we wanted to chat about. You and I talked about this poor guy at what was it, Disneyland, who jumped off a parking structure, and so. What we're titling this, gentlemen, is the 9 critical risk management questions for dads dating after divorce, and we're couching this in this. I mean, this poor guy's story of he was a principal for like 22 years in Florida, and just so my understanding from reading about it, just an upstanding guy that just took care of kids and students and was great. And he got remarried, and he was married to a woman with some daughters, and they had a heated exchange one night, and she just decided to call the cops. And well, we know what happens when a guy raises his voice and a woman gets scared. That he went to jail, and he was facing some misdemeanor charges. I don't know exactly what they were, but unfortunately, and this is probably some mental health issues, he felt so helpless that he took his life. And
yeah, I mean, you just pointed to the mental health issue thing. The first thing that stuck out to me of that story was, if you read it, his relationship with this woman was secret. That's odd. And they were together for like some 3 years. So he didn't tell anyone that he was married to this woman. I thought, okay, right away, red flag. Like, what the hell is going on here? That's weird.
Why?
And then the fact that he was facing a misdemeanor charge, which I'm no lawyer, but that, it's on your record forever. It's not, it's kind of like jaywalking. It's not a big deal. It's not like he'll get pulled over and they go, whoa, we have a felon here. No, it's so. Right. He got with this weird secret relationship. He got with the wrong person, obviously, and he's facing a misdemeanor charge, possibly. So he decides to off himself. I'm like, something doesn't add up here. And you hit on it. I think this poor guy, not to throw him under the bus, the poor dude, he was struggling with something, obviously, and this was the tipping point. This pushed him over the edge, because there's a category of men that will enter into a relationship like that and have that situation, and they will just roll their eyes and go, crazy people, huh? They're everywhere, and get out of the relationship and be done with it. Well, his coping mechanism, he didn't have any. He spun out of control, and in a very grandiose fashion at Disneyland of all freaking places, he offed himself. I mean, something's going on here.
Yeah, and you hit it also, which is we probably are just seeing and learning a little bit the tip of the iceberg of what was going on, because the warnings, it seems like the warning signs around this was an unhealthy relationship, probably from, I would guess, from the start. If it ended like this, there's a high probability that from the start it was an unhealthy relationship, which leads us into talking about ways that dating after divorce, and particularly when we are dating with our own kids, we're dating probably women with their own kids, and the dynamics that go into this. It is you've done it. I continue to do it, and it's very complex. And so there's a lot of moving parts that go along with that. And I have found, I just did a brief Google search before in researching for this of I did a few different searches around dads dating after divorce risks, dads dating after divorce, protecting yourself, dads dating, and literally no results at all on Google about anything, any information, anything about how you go about this or how you manage the risk or how you protect yourself, what to look out for, how to go about it. And so that just told me that we really need to talk about this. And we'd already talked about, this topic, but this is really something that's important, because I know in your work, you deal with a lot, you deal with a lot of guys that are dating after divorce. That is my job, right? I'm working with guys through divorce and then post-divorce. And so, man, it is a struggle, and it is difficult and challenging. And so, I'd like for us to talk through these 9 questions, and just obviously we were not able to get through this in real intimate detail, but that's also why you're there for coaching. You've got your crew of coaches at DSO. I'm coaching and I'm helping the guys through this. So guys listening, get engaged. And even if it is not with Rolf or one of his guys or me, get engaged with a therapist or a coach or somebody that can help you dive into these questions and get the help and support you need to have a healthy relationship after divorce. I think, and Rolf, tell me your thoughts on this. I think we all, I feel, and are wired to want to have relationships and be in relationship, and it's part of how we grow. And that's maybe a little contrary to what we hear some of this free agent lifestyle and MGTOW guys and whatnot. I understand what they're saying, but I feel like it's important that we do stay in relation with each other.
Yeah, most men want to have a partner to go through life with. As unmanly as that may sound to some people out there in the internet sphere of man stuff, most of us want to have some kind of partner. Well, that just by its nature, you're making yourself vulnerable, and you're putting yourself out there and saying, "Here I am, world." And you can get hurt. And but a lot of men have learned is you can get hurt pretty freaking badly too. And it all comes down to, I guess it's a twofold thing. Do we want to go down too far into the rabbit hole of what to look out for as far as women are concerned? Super important, but we don't want to lose sight of the other side, which is taking care of what's up here. Like that dude in this example, the poor news story with the Disneyland thing. I don't think he ever addressed that. Obviously, I don't know his prior relationship experience. Maybe that's a good place to start. I don't remember from the story if he was married before, if he had relationships with any kind of women before that at all, if this was brand spanking new to him, if he was like this quintessential nice guy, socially awkward, no experience with women, and he finally found the quote woman of his dreams, I can see where that would be this extremely troubling, life altering, reality altering, holy shit, I don't know if I can cope with this. There's this a phenomenon that I see quite often with dudes that I talk to post-divorce, which is, I went through this terrible divorce. My heart was really broken. Financially, I'm broken, everything else. And then I put myself out into the world, and I'll be damned if a whopping 1.5 months, 2 months into dating, I think I found Mrs. Right.
Yeah, right.
And as much as you try to rationalize with the guy and say, please take your time, please don't jump into this, dude, you're at a very vulnerable state. He'll be like, I know, but I've really studied this and I've really looked at her from A to Z, and she's checking every box, and I'll be damned, I think I just got really lucky. And he'll say, in his defense, he'll say, I'm not going to marry her tomorrow. I'll take my time. But, I think this is the one. And then, it could be months, it could be a year down the line. He learns that, oh shit, I did it all over again. I've overlooked some things, or maybe he didn't overlook some things. Maybe she pulled the wool over his eyes and he gets his heart broken. What those guys will tell you is that heartbreak from that breakup with the rebound chick, as they call it, is actually more painful than the divorce that he went through. Why?
Yep.
Because he feels like the universe is saying, sorry about all that heartache and terribleness you went through. Here's your princess. Here's the one and he's like, oh, thank God. There's something to, there's positive in the world. There's love out there. There's good, and it's not all horrible. And then life says, psych, just kidding. It's worse than you thought. And some of these men are really, really, really crushed. For those that, have a difficult time coping, they become suicidal and they drugs, alcohol, whatever. And I think that's probably what we're seeing with this guy. Not to go on and on about this, but I'm trying to think. I don't know why his name is Anthony Bourdain, famous chef. Right. And I did an article about him. This was several years back. He killed himself.
Right.
And he had been through, prior to the relationship he was in when he killed himself, he had 2 marriages prior that failed, and he took them very, very hard. And basically those marriages failed because, if I'm remembering right, it was tough to marry up his marriage and his career. And his career was really taking off, and he was traveling all over the place, and he was very highly devoted to his writing and everything else. And the marriage just kind of fell by the wayside. And the wives weren't all that supportive of it. You need to be here with your children. You need to do this and this and this. And they eventually went their separate ways, and they grew apart. And he was heartbroken over it, and he had a very difficult time coping with it. He was a past drug addict and everything else. Mm-hmm. And then he found his Miss Perfect, because she would travel everywhere with him. She was this misfit type person like him, this punk rock type personality, and they would go everywhere. And then very publicly, she ended up cheating on him. Mm-hmm. And he couldn't cope with it. And he killed himself the next day after finding out about it. And I think that's the quintessential example of, he thought he found Mrs. Right. Everything was Yahoo, perfect, great. He was 60 some odd years old, if I remember right. It took so many decades, but he finally found her. And then the rug was pulled out from under him. Now, when you look at Tony and people like him, you say Anthony Bourdain, Tony Bourdain, people like him, you go, somebody didn't do the hard work of figuring out why it is they keep getting into these messes. Somebody didn't, he was a past drug addict, yet he was a pretty prolific drinker. Sounds like somebody didn't quite go through the whole process of recovery and addiction recovery and all that other stuff. So long-winded way of saying, let's not lose sight of the fact that men, you got some work to do out there. If you don't do that work, you are more apt to find women like this guy did, the Disneyland dude did.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, which is a lot of what you just described with these men is very emotional and feeling based, and then it's just driven by that. And there are ways in which you can systematically do this work and get yourself to a place that's that you're in a position to have a healthy relationship again, and then also a way in which you can conduct yourself within that relationship that is healthy and systematic, that takes some of, it sounds unromantic. I'm not sure if you and I have talked about this, but a lot of this sometimes is unromantic. Like having these conversations or doing this work or whatever. It's not the storybook crap that we hear on TV or we watch or we read, or that women subscribe to a lot, but men do too, because we get caught up into it as well. And so that's part of this 9 critical questions. And I'm taking this directly from Shawn T. Smith's book, The Practical Guide for, or the Tactical Guide to Women. And we've had Shawn on, and he's talked about it. He's a clinical psychologist, and these guys are brilliant, right, at breaking all this stuff down, looking at it systematically, taking the emotion out of it, and making sure that you're setting yourself up for success. And in his book, the first half is exactly what you just described, which is getting your, poop in a pile, if you will, understanding your history, knowing what your values are, structuring all of that. And then the second half of the book, and where I took this from, like chapter 7, I think it was, is then identifying other women, women that you want to be in a relationship with that do have these different values, or these similar values, but also these similar traits that potentially can lead to a healthy relationship. And that's really important. It's really important to take that emotion out.
The term is that I often use is pragmatic, being very stoic, pragmatic about it, and trying as much as humanly possible to leave emotion out of the equation. That's not possible to completely 100% leave emotion. That's why you're with the woman.
Right.
And she strikes a chord emotionally, and who's this? And I like her, and I think this could be something good. Oh boy, that's tough to then say, well, let's take a time out and really think about this. And it could be as simple as the logistics of our lives don't match up. We can't meet each other. Kids get in the way. Careers get in the way. You're traveling too much. I don't think this is going to work for me. I still love you as a person. We can still be on a friendly basis. But as far as you and I being this close romantic partnership together, that ain't going to work. That sounds, what I just said sounds really basic. But when you're in the heat of the moment, that's really, really tough to do.
Yeah, or somebody that just is not at the same place mentally and emotionally as you are. Has not done the work, and that's something we're gonna dive into here with these questions. Is it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with them. It just means that they're not somebody that's suitable for you at this time. And that's okay. And it's better to walk away now than to 3.5 years down the road, get into this and go, oh crap, what did I do? To use a religious term, I'm unequally yoked, right? Like I've done this work and she hasn't. And so this is not really working. And it goes back to exactly what we described in the beginning. And then you're like, oh man, this is, what do I do now? Right. And that's why the divorce rate on second marriages is like 70% or something like that. Some huge high percentage rate.
Yeah. Well, the big reason I think for that is because once you've done it once and you realize, boy, that really sucked going through the process, but it is possible. And you're not so gun shy anymore about saying, I'm out. And also people, I think, as we get older, become less patient with things. So when we see something that really makes us go, oof, instead of saying oof in our first marriage, like we did in our first marriage, and say, oh, well, that's life. That's the way it is. We say, oof. Yeah, I don't think I want to do this anymore.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
and to be honest with you, I don't know which approach is necessarily the healthiest. Obviously, I think somewhere in the middle.
A balance. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. So let's dive into these questions. And again, these are directly from Shawn T. Smith's book, The Tactical Guide to Women. And I highly suggest anybody listening out there to check it out. And also check out our previous episode where we chatted with him about the book. And he's got some great YouTube videos.
Yeah, very good.
He's just a solid guy and just really knows his stuff around relationships. But he breaks it down into three different categories to make these assessments. And again, I want to just reiterate what you said, which is this only happens after you've done the work to get yourself in a position to start dating. So if you're in the middle of a divorce and you're trying to do an assessment on women that you could potentially date, this is probably not the right way to go about it. Now, that doesn't mean that hasn't happened and that could work. It has, but the probabilities are low. You need to do your self-work first. And so this is once you've done that and you get into a position like, okay, I'm ready to be out there. I just want to manage my risk. I want to know some questions I need to be thinking about around personality and behavior, et cetera. And so these are 9 critical risk management questions. The first is around assessing her clarity. The first question is, are her coping skills reliable?
Yeah. And
that's a big one, man.
And how can we determine that? Here's the catch, though. Here's the catch for a lot of these. Time. Just being with them, watching them interact with life and all the crap that life throws at you. What are her coping skills? Well, if you shack up with a woman after knowing her for 2 or 3 months, you're not going to be able to see that.
Right.
You see that by, going on trips with her, watching her when her parent dies, watching her when something goes bad at work and all these other things. I'm glad that's number one because, oh boy, is that everything.
Man, it's huge. It is huge. And the guys you described, like that move in after 3 months or engage after 6 or whatever, you haven't done it. There's this old adage: you got to date for the time frame of a box of salt. It's like an old adage, because a box of salt used to take a year. Like they'd buy these big boxes of salt and they'd have them in the kitchen, and it would take a full year to get through this box. You need to date through a box of salt, which means, and let's talk about this for a little bit, because that's probably the best point. And if anybody else is going to stop listening right now, take this point, which is take the time to date for at least a period of time. And I don't know what you feel. I feel at least a year is something that you really need to just be in dating mode with, right? Just before you're starting to make these grandiose plans, moving in, doing anything, date for at least a year.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with that. Now it's like dating the one person for a year before you make any concrete plans of cohabitation, everything. Yeah. And the case could be made even longer than that. Yeah.
Well, I would, and I think Shawn in the book says date until that honeymoon period goes away, which probably is dependent upon the couple. But he says something to the effect like when those cute things stop being cute anymore, then that's kind of, and then date for a year after that, I think is what he says. So that could be 2, that could be 3 years before then you're really thinking about doing stuff.
And what makes it even more difficult is that honeymoon stage can be prolonged, especially in this day and age when we have 2 career people who are, I can't meet this Wednesday or Thursday, blah, blah, blah. I can meet Sunday afternoon. And so you have this very natural split and scarcity, which keeps that honeymoon stage going. And a lot of people I'm learning are discovering, like, we kind of like that dynamic of 2 individual lives, independent lives. I think we want to just keep this up. Why mess with a good thing? Because what a lot of people learn is as soon as we say we're not so independent anymore and we throw at each other and we're living with each other 24/7, all of a sudden that's when you're put it to the test.
Right. The exact reason why post-COVID there's so many divorces.
Yeah.
So many people were forced to actually be in relation with each other, in like real close relation with each other. So that's a great point. But around these coping skills in order to get through a relationship long term, there's and I'm sure you can speak to this because you've been married for how many years now? Remarried for how many years now?
5 now.
5 now, and so you were married previously. You're going to need to have a skill set in place that is going to allow you to deal with the shit that goes on with life, because life's going to throw it at you. And like you mentioned before, with the things recurring, and if you're not dealing with it, then it's going to keep coming at you. So if you don't have these skills, if she doesn't have these skills, and you have to learn those on the fly, that's going to be a huge freaking challenge. If you've got a health issue, you've got a death, you've got something big going on.
We could stay on this one for the entire episode, because this is something I hear again and again and again when I talk to men that are in really like toxic, kind of crazy relationships, and it's when did the wheels fall off? They can always point to some event in life, holy shit event, as I call it. And a lot of the time it's when our kid was born. When our kid was born, my wife went through a very normal postpartum period, and she never quite pulled herself out of it. And she gained a ton of weight, and she became, her coping mechanism became the overeating. She gained, 200 pounds, and she felt horrible about herself, and it just spiraled out of control after that. And it's not always the eating. Sometimes it's overspending. Sometimes it's substance abuse, infidelities, trying to get attention from others, but something kind of sparked it. And I can, almost every story, you can pinpoint it to one little event, and it always points to the same thing. Life threw her something that she wasn't quite ready for, and she didn't cope with it very well. And that can lead to a whole host of issues for both of you. So that's huge, 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 huge.
Yep. And then it goes back to exactly what you said. You only can see this if you spend the time with her, and you do that over an extended period. So this dynamic that you just described, which is we see each other once in a while, that's great. You're not really getting into the intimacy of a relationship and knowing and understanding how somebody copes with stuff and what skill set they do or don't have, unless you are doing it regularly and you're doing it for a period of time.
You got it. And this this mindset transfers outside of the world of the romantic relationship. What if you got a guy you hired for your company? Are you going to 2 months later immediately promote him to vice president?
Right.
You're gonna let him go through the paces for a period of years to see how he does with all these things. And when your sales go down, how does he react, and et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And you just said it, period of years, right?
Yeah.
That's a great analogy. I love it. Nobody's getting promoted to president, vice president in 3 months or 6 months. Why are you promoting her to wife in 3 months or 6
Bingo.
months? It's absolute freaking insanity.
And if you were in the job and everybody, and you did promote the new dude you just hired 3 months ago, everybody'd be like, well, what's going on here? This dude must have some kind of secret on you.
Right.
Something's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Everyone would immediately say something is off here. But not so much with the old relationship thing. There's an army of people ready to pat you on the back saying, I'm glad you found your soulmate. That's awesome. Go.
Exactly. And if she's a single mother, even better.
You're the hero. Yeah.
You're a saint.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, the difference is we don't have any Disney movies in corporate America to help us to understand why that's so much better. Anyway, okay. So next question number 2. You're right. We could talk on that for the rest of the time. The number 2 one, and I did not recognize this one until I read Shawn's book years ago. Actually, the next 2 ones about clarity. But is she inquisitive?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Is she interested in you? Is she interested in your life? Is she interested in what you have to say, how you feel? Does she actively listen to that?
Yeah. Is she not an asshole?
Yeah. Well,
basically.
I mean, that would probably be the bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that in one of the next sections, whether she treats you good or not.
If she's so hyper focused on herself,
Right.
there's a personality type called very avoidant, and they are very or attachment style rather, where you're very avoidant,
Right.
where you don't like a lot of the personal, intimate, yada yada. They don't like that kind of stuff, and they're not the type to, when you walk in the door, give you a hug and say, "Tell me about your day." They just don't. They don't have that mechanism in there, and they don't make the best relationship partners, not for the majority of us. So I like that. Is she inquisitive?
Yeah, they're the ones that walk in at the end of the day and tell you all about their day for the first hour and a half.
They unload.
Right. And then if you can get how was your day, honey, then you're lucky. Let alone getting into the intimate details of that. But again, this goes back to spending time, right? Is it somebody that is cognizant of you and what your needs are and what your life is about, et cetera. And then to just expand upon that, the next question, the next clarity question is she assertive? And that would be part of that as well. Is she assertive in doing things like asking about your day, doing things? Is she assertive in being understanding of what it is that she needs and what she wants and what her values are?
And that one's a little tougher, I think, talking about the assertiveness as far as her saying, here are boundaries I have, here are expectations. That is not a very feminine trait.
Sure.
That assertiveness. Women are typically more passive and more agreeable is the personality trait. Women tend to be more agreeable than men. And that is something we have to kind of teach our daughters, that it's okay to be a bitch sometimes and just say, no, I'm not doing that, or no, I don't want to do that, and here's what I expect. And women tend to have a hard time with that. So is she very assertive? Well, it may take a bit for her to feel comfortable being so. I say that, and there's probably a lot of men laughing right now because they say, "Oh, you haven't met my ex-wife."
Yeah,
She was plenty disagreeable and plenty assertive. Well, that's not every woman, especially at the honeymoon stage.
Right. And there's a difference with being disagreeable and being assertive. And there's a way that you can be just assertive as well as being, I don't know if I want to use the word like subservient or
submissive.
Thank you. Yeah, being submissive as well in being assertive. So that would look like, in Shawn uses this example in the book is you can still be assertive in stating that he uses the example of, well, what would you like to eat for dinner, honey? And you've heard this, like, I don't know, what do you want? I don't know, what do you want? Like you go back for it, and nobody's being assertive. And hopefully, as a man, like you might, if you can still be assertive, but you still want some feedback to know, like, is there something that you're wanting? Like, is there a desire that you have? And she could say, instead of like, I don't know, what do you want? It would look more like, I don't really have a preference. I would like for you to decide. And that's being assertive. That is what she wants. She wants you to decide. That is being assertive. So you can still, you can be still submissive, but also be assertive. You can, like in the idea of, how was your day? You're being assertive and trying to know and understand your man. So is she going to be inquisitive about that? Is she going to be assertive about being inquisitive instead of you having to like take that initiative to like have to get her to talk about what it is that your wants and needs are as well? Maybe
assertive. The better term would be communicative, not vague, not pussyfooting around. Just how many men look at the woman and can you just tell me what it is you freaking want?
They don't know. Here's a pro tip. They don't know. It's okay.
So that's where it behooves us as men to be more of the assertive ones and the leadership ones, and just go, all right, we're going to have fish. If there are no no protests, we're going to go out for seafood tonight. Cool. All right, we're doing it. As opposed to, oh God, woman, just tell me what it is you want.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't preclude you from getting feedback. Doesn't get to know what your woman wants, to know what she enjoys, to if you're sensitive to what's going on in the relationship and you're paying attention to things, you're going to pick up on that stuff. And so maybe one time it's something that's not to her preference, not to do that again. So you're going to be assertive in a different manner, in a different way. So that's all part of that relational dynamic. But I don't think we can go too far down that rabbit hole, at least in this episode. So, all right. So those are the assessing her clarity, three critical risk management questions. So the next category Shawn has is assessing her emotional maturity. And the first maturity question, number one, is she resilient? And this is a really big one too.
Is she resilient? Kind of goes along with the coping mechanism thing. Is she able to put up with life when it hits her right between the eyes, so to speak? How are those two different?
I would say that it would be, one is more around a skill set and one is more around a mindset. So the coping skills is specific to how she goes about doing it, and being resilient is the mindset. And I'll tell you one question that I always ask up front immediately is, tell me about your last relationship and why did it fail? And then you get feedback as to, and this goes into one of the other questions we're going to talk about her history, et cetera. But it gives you good feedback about where she's at in being resilient about new relationships, if she has taken ownership about her responsibility in the previous relationship, and whether that's her divorce or maybe a subsequent relationship since her divorce, and what that dynamic is like, and what her mindset is then around dating. Because you can tell if they're resilient, they're back in it and they're enjoying it and looking forward to and wanting to do it. If they're like, oh, he was a dick and I got treated poorly and seems like all I can do is find dicks and, it's just terrible and dating sucks and it's so much, like, that's obvious. She's obviously not resilient. She's not done the work to get herself back to a position that is going to be a positive for finding somebody else.
It also sounds like we're discussing accountability there a little bit too.
Oh yeah.
Which is something that it's on I'm learning on the internet through my videos I post and stuff, with a lot of comments from men, is that there's a predominant theme amongst a lot of the commenters there that women lack in accountability. The women that they encounter. We shouldn't speak in such extremes, but women that they encounter, and I did some little experiments and stuff on TikTok and stuff where I ask and I compare the responses to men and women, and these men have a point. There seems to be some kind of cultural thing, I don't know what it is, where if you were to get a room full of men and say, all right, tell me, where did you go wrong in your past relationship? from what I have seen, this isn't a scientific experiment by any means, but just what I've observed is that if you take the room of men and room of women, the room of men, a higher percentage of those men will say, legitimate accountability stuff of, I'll tell you what I did. I was way too much of a pushover. I had anger problems, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
While on the other side, you ask the women, more often than not, you will get, I'll tell you what was wrong. I was too nice. I was too perfect. I was too this. I was too that. And I married the wrong man. That was my problem. I married a narcissist.
Right.
Not necessarily full-blown accountability, not discounting their experience. I'm sure there's absolute truth to that, but there also has to be a kernel of some kind of, no, where did you go wrong? You weren't an angel in this, so let's hear it. And does she have that skill? If so, that's huge. That's hugely positive, and that's a big indicator of an emotionally mature person.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, you just skipped down to question number 9, which was, does she internalize responsibility?
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Does she internalize the responsibility? And people who internalize responsibility then look for solutions that they can implement and go forward with, as opposed to looking externally of like what you just described. He was a narcissist, or he worked too much, or he was an alcoholic. Like, that's the reason why. That's the reason why things didn't work out, as opposed to what did you contribute to that, to why it didn't work out?
I call it professional victimhood, and we see it. We see it a lot. I see it a lot of the dudes I talk to.
It's just society. It's our society, Ralph.
Yeah, it's them. It's not me. It's never me.
Yeah.
I said the word narcissist. That is a way overused term on the internet right now that everybody is spitting out. And a lot of men are saying, my ex-wife was a narcissist. I think a more proper term is, my ex-wife exhibited some narcissistic tendencies. She wasn't a full-blown narcissist. A very, very small percentage of people have narcissistic personality disorder, but we all have some narcissistic traits, some of us a little bit more than others. So let's stop throwing that term around so damn much. But it's very, very easy to fall into, I think a way simpler way of putting it is a loser mentality.
Victimhood or loser mentality. I was just having this conversation with a client this morning about it potentially being a generational thing, because we've had a whole generation now that has not had a world war, has not been involved in any wars, has not had any conflicts in world conflicts at all, and has lived basically kind of this lifestyle where they're told everything's okay, you're okay, and your feelings are really what matters, are really what's the truth and the reality of what's going on. And now we've had a whole generation, and then now subsequent generations that have been told that. And when we're told that, then we never internalize any of this. We never internalize any responsibility. We never look at, our feelings real? Am I okay? That's the worst thing. Jordan Peterson talks about that all the time, which is, that's the worst thing that you tell people is, you're fine how you are, honey. Like, we're not. All of us have room for improvement. And that's not meaning that you're a bad person. That just means everybody has room to improve and to work hard towards that. But that is not the message. That's not the message that we're hearing these days. It's, man, that's terrible. You're a victim of this. You're a victim of that. I mean, literally, we go online and it's the victim of the day. And now it's gotten so bad, Ralph. Like, we're seeing victim, like the preferential victim category from one day to the next, fighting with the other one. It's like, no, I'm the bigger victim. No, you're the bigger victim. And no, there's another victim that's XYZ victim. And it's like, holy crap. Like, you can slice and dice this and never end until you stop. And you say, and you internalize this and say, yeah, I'm not a victim. Like, I can do something. I have agency to do something about my life. And so I think that speaks to exactly what you're talking about. And then also, what we're talking about, to bring it back to that question, the maturity question is about the resiliency is, does she take accountability? Okay. So the stability, that's a stability question. Is she responsible for it? And then she's resilient about it. Is she back into her life, leading her life? How is she How is she parenting her children? How is she dealing with her relationship with her ex? How is she handling the relationship with you? Has she designed her life to be able to facilitate a relationship? That's all. Those are all resiliency signs of somebody that's getting back into things because they've done the work that they need to.
And not to, I don't want to sound misogynistic or anything here, but that's extra tough because, and I've seen this again and again, there is this damsel in distress thing, which what you're talking about with the resiliency and so forth, that comes from experiencing really bad stuff and digging yourself out of it. Yeah. And there is a lot of women, and I've seen this firsthand, where even if the woman makes all the mistakes herself, let's say it's some woman who decided to have an affair, broke up her family, left the kids, whatever it may be, by virtue of the fact that she's a woman, she's going to have a lot of people coming to her rescue. Do you need a place to stay? Here's a car. Do you need this? Here's some furniture. Here's money for rent. And all she has to do, create an online dating profile, and she has, free dinner for every day of the week if she wants.
Sure.
So and none of that is demonizing women in any way. That is just, that's the nature of the beast. That's just the way it is. And it's the way it's always been. And kudos to women for having that experience. I wish I did.
Yeah,
but,
right.
So now it's extra tough to find a woman who has been through that, did the work in the trenches, dug herself out, and said, now I have the skills to realize life, hit me right between the eyes, like I said, and look at me, I'm better for it. This is what I learned as a result. Society, for a lot of women, not all, doesn't give them the opportunity to learn that lesson.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You hit it on the head. And I struggle with this because it's not a bad thing to have created this environment that is conducive to supporting women. It's just bad when it is. I don't know how to describe it.
When it rewards certain undesirable behavior.
Yeah, exactly. Which it does now. But there's that fine line. Where's that balance of keeping it from rewarding but also supporting women, which we want to do, particularly if we're masculine men that want that want healthy dynamics in our world and a healthy energy, masculine feminine energy between the sexes. But
pardon me for interrupting. It's like how many stories we've heard, you and I both, from men saying wife cheated, wife left, and she took all of this money. Now I'm broke. She got all these assets of ours. It's almost like she's being rewarded for doing this horrible, terrible thing. And the court system doesn't even give a shit as to what got us here in this position. All they care about is legally she's due these assets and this money and so forth. And we're worried about the welfare of the kids, and we think mother should have them in the majority of the time, if at least half the time, if not the majority of the time. And all of these, this isn't like everyone just got in a room one day and said, how can we make men's lives be as horrible as humanly possible? No, this all started decades ago, when they said, a lot of these women are kind of screwed over in the divorce thing. They're stay-at-home mothers. They don't have any kind of career. They don't have anything. And for whatever reason, divorce happened, and we can't just put these women on the street. We have to make sure that they and their children have an okay life.
Right.
That on paper sounds great, but as you've seen, you can take it too far, and it goes too far in the other way. And then we have no fault divorce, and that all compounds together, and we have the mess that we're in today, and these stories that we hear from these men. But the origin of all of this, I guess it came from a good place. You're right.
Well, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Good
intentions,
right? Yeah. That's what happens. Is you just described it. It was originally well intentioned, but then no fault came in, and it's like, okay, we just made this transactional. That's all it is. And now the mindset, even now for the generations now, is looking at the outcome, which is divorce, and is being no fault, and having it, they're getting into it with a transactional mindset. which is the absolute wrong way to get into a marriage, is that this is just going to be a transaction. But that's what we've done. And we could probably get into politics of this, which I don't want to do right now, but it's become transactional. And now the start and the end is just transactional. And that's why I feel like we've gotten to the point where we've gotten out of relation. Like this marriage is something that is long-term. This is a lifetime commitment, or if they're religious, a covenant that's under God, or something that's much more meaningful than, basically the same idea of going and getting a new cell phone plan that you can get out of in, next month if you want to. It's the same mindset.
You got it. Exactly right.
So, all right. Maturity question number 2. Is she accepting?
So let's further define that, meaning, well, I guess there's a bunch of different ways you could look at that. Everything is not perfect,
yes,
such as life.
Yep.
This little thing didn't go exactly as I thought it would, such as life. Move on. Pretty relatively rare personality trait from what I've seen. Especially with your in my 2 marriages, I've married both very type A professional women. Mm-hmm. And these type A professional women can take the controlling thing a little too far. Mm-hmm. And sure. Which is here is my plan for the day, the week, the month, the year. And then life says, I don't think so. And then I have watched as my now wife has morphed, and her maturity in that realm has improved a great deal, where she will say, not to boost myself too much, but she will say that she's learned from me in that regard, that the stoic mindset of mm-hmm. It is what it is. I know we were supposed to go on vacation, but now one of us has the flu.
Right.
Let's plan B. Let's figure out how to work around it, as opposed to, this goes against my plan. This isn't what I thought. That ain't going to get you anywhere. So
right.
Let's figure out a way around it. And that's, like I say, a relatively rare personality trait. That
is. And I'd extend that to accepting of you, who you are, what your feelings are, your foibles as well, because we all have them. And is that something that you can...
Foibles is a good word.
Yeah, that you can, that she can be accepting of, not meaning that she is condoning bad behavior. Foibles would be just character flaws or character quirks, etc. Stuff that you might, I know I need to be working on that, and I am, or I will, or whatever it is. Is she accepting of that and loving around that?
There's the I'm trying to remember how to properly phrase this. There's the notion, and this has been around forever, that when entering in a relationship, the man crosses his fingers and says, boy, I hope this woman doesn't change. Versus the woman says, what can I do to change my man?
Right.
There's these 10 things about him, and I don't like 4 of them. What can I do to change those things? As opposed to accepting, like, that's who you married. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that too, because that is a very interesting point that you bring up in getting into, and this is going to get a little off track, but I think it's really important for the dads listening, is that you have to accept somebody. And so I guess we can couch it in all these questions. If you're asking these questions and you're categorizing or documenting the answers to this, you've got to accept her for who she is right now. And if you're not comfortable with that and going to what you just said, and you're thinking and hoping that she's going to change to be something else, that's a very, very dangerous path to go down.
Yes. But, I've seen it, though, from, I'd say the majority of men that I talk to are a little more lenient in that regard. They're not so stringent of she's got to be changed. What I've seen is that men seem to be very accepting to a fault, where they mm-hmm. will oversee a lot of those negative things that they should maybe pay a little bit more attention to.
Okay.
So I think that applies more to the opposite sex than it does us. But I'm a little biased being a dude.
Okay. Interesting. Well, no, it's that's interesting to know, because I feel like it depends on the guy that you talk to. because I
Sure,
hear a lot of guys that are like, yeah, but it'll be better then or when or whatever. I'm like, you got to be accepting of who she is right now. And that's what, and that doesn't mean that you don't work hard or you don't have an expectation for her to improve or yourself to improve. Hopefully you're working to improve yourself, which is a modeling for her that in your life, that is an expectation that you have, or that you actually talk about this. Here's one of those unromantic things that we talked about in the beginning. You talk about the expectation of personal improvement within your relationship and in long term in your marriage. If you decide that you want to get married, that is an expectation that you will continue to work on yourself and you will improve. That's not stagnant. So that's important also. Yeah. Cool.
Moving on.
Maturity question number 3. We touched on it earlier. Is she good to you?
Wow. It's pretty basic, isn't it? And why is that even?
It seems like why? Well, okay.
Why is that even a thing?
Why though? Why do we? And I've been guilty of this. Why do we just? We wouldn't. If you were being an ass to me, I'd be like, screw you, Ralph.
You'd hang up.
But why do we? Yeah. Why do we put up with this so often with women?
That's a very deep question. There's a term that I use often, which is toxic scarcity. I'm lucky to have this woman, even though she has these 2 pretty glaringly negative traits about her, and the way she treats me could be one. There are these 8 really positive things that I really don't want to get rid of, because in my mind, this goodness in my life is so scarce. In my mind, if I let her go, I don't know if I'm ever going to find somebody who can give me those 8 positive things again. I see myself dying alone. There's a lot of men that legitimately think that. And they think that it's sad when I talk to men who say, I'm 41 years old. I'm never going to be able to find somebody. I'm like,
yeah, right.
That is so young. And so they'll put up with that. And a lot of these men also don't have a lot of relationship experience. Right. So you're quintessential Mr. Nice Guys.
Man, you took that was a good setup. You took the words. I was gonna point to Dr. Robert Glover's work and his talk about creating that life that you have, that is then inviting of a woman in, so that she can then be the icing on the cake. And again, we don't talk about that in derogatory meaning. It means that it enhances the life that you've already created. And if that's happening, she's going to come in and be good to you because she appreciates the life that you have designed and the life that you're living, and that what her role can be in that, and what her and how you guys can marry that together. So she's going to automatically be good to you if you have that mindset, which is opposite of what you just described, which is scarcity and fear and pedestalizing and everything else that is unhealthy.
And you say she's going to automatically be good to you. Not necessarily, not if she's not a good person.
True. Well, partner. Right.
If she's a decent woman, yeah, she will.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If some of the answers to these questions are positive, then yeah, hopefully she is going to be good. If you're getting a majority of positive answers to these questions, the likelihood that she's going to be good to you is probably higher. Let's leave it. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, last category is assessing her mental stability. And the first question is, does she understand her history? Now, we talked about this with us understanding our history before we get into this. Hugely important. I'm going to reiterate that. Know your history, understand your background, understand what you brought to the dynamic, but then does she?
Mm-hmm. And it's one thing to understand, but it's another thing to do something about it. Mm-hmm. What I've heard, and this is interesting, is that a lot of men in these toxic relationships, I will say, they will tell me, the men will know like verbatim the woman's background. Like when she was 12, this happened. And I will say, is this something that she has told you over the years? And a lot of these men will say, actually, she told me right up front. In other words, this woman was almost warning me. Like, do you know what you're getting yourself into? Like, I come with a slew of baggage here, and here you go. Boom, 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 boom. And Mr. Nice Guy, basically, his reaction is, it's going to take a lot more than that to scare me away. I've already fallen
Ah.
head over heels for you. And doesn't that make me a great man, that I can hear all this horribleness from your past and just look right past it and just say, hey, none of us are perfect, right? Just because you used to be a prostitute, you got 4 kids from 3 different men, and the list goes on and on and on. I'm able to look past that. And
Wow.
does she understand it? To the men's point, to the Mr. Nice Guy's point, yes, we all have baggage and skeletons in the closet, et cetera. But a good person says, yeah, I have this awful thing happen to me, or these awful things I did, but let me tell you what I did as a result and what I learned from it. And I'm in therapy, and I went and I did this, and this, and I made this mistake later, and this is how I work through it. And great, good. In fact, those people tend to be the type of people you want to latch onto. Those people that went through crap, worked through it, and became better as a result. What you don't want to do is get with those people that say, none of that has anything to do with who I am now. La, 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 la. I'm not listening. We don't need to talk about that. I don't feel comfortable talking about that. I didn't deal with it then, and I'm not going to deal with it now. Let's just shut up and move on. That's like, uh-oh. So it's scary. In my book, I wrote a book that's kind of along the lines of what we're talking about. Very short little read called Red Flags that people can pick up. It costs like $5 online. Right. And one of the things that I hear from a lot of men is, did you ever say to the woman, what is it that you did to deal with all this stuff? And a lot of the reaction from a lot of these women is, go F yourself. That's what I did. In other words, who are you to bring this up? Who are you to, you're not my therapist. You're not my dad. You're not my anything. What do you mean? What did I do to work on this? Get the hell out of here. It's like, dude, that is not good.
Yeah. Or what she did is glaringly obvious, which is she's addicted, which is our next question. Like, is she addicted?
Which is a coping mechanism. Yeah,
exactly. Right. That is what she did, is she started drinking or drugs or sex or shopping or eating or whatever it is. And again, that's not to, we do the same thing. Men do the same thing, but we're talking about, well, what is that? What is that sign? Does she understand what the history was? Okay. And man, that was such a pearl. Like, that was a truth bomb that you just dropped. I feel like is that they're probably going to expose right up front something that is very, very specific to something that is their history. Pay attention to that. Don't gloss over it. Dive into it. Again, this is that unromantic part of having to have these conversations. It's not freaking Disney. It's where the relationships are built and the foundations are set is in these unromantic, difficult, uncomfortable conversations of, okay, and maybe it's not as extreme as you're a prostitute, 4 kids, and you're addicted. Okay. But I mean, I can't say that I haven't met one or 2. So, but dive into that and be the inquisitive person that, and this doesn't have to be like your DA style 20 questions. It's just, tell me about that. And what did you do? Like, okay, I'm in, and that might be, I'm in recovery. And I feel like maybe that's a good sign if somebody has worked through some of this stuff, because this kind of wraps it up, because the stability question number 3 is, does she internalize responsibility, which we hit on earlier, which is okay, if she's in recovery, or if she is at least cognizant of the reaction that she's had to it and how it's impacted her life, or what she's done with her life as a result of it, then she is internalizing the responsibility and hopefully doing stuff, or at least maybe she is aware of it, but she's not doing stuff. But you get to the bottom of all of this before you are 3.5 years down the road, jumping off a parking garage.
Here's the thing for your classic nice guy types, what we're talking about, setting these boundaries and digging and tell me more about that and so forth. A lot of these guys say that's going to make me a grade A-hole. And that's going to make me a really bad guy to do that kind of stuff, because this poor person that I'm talking to has already been through the ringer with life. And I don't want to be the person to pile on and point the finger at them and make them feel worse. And I actually want to be the hero in here. And I want to be the guy, because the reason that a lot of these women say up front, let me show you what you're getting into here, mister, is because they've lost a lot of men because of what they've gone through. She's probably had 12 semi-boyfriends, dates or whatever over the past year. And they all, after a couple, 2 or 3 dates, go, "Oh, you did what? Oh, you did what? And let me just ghost you. Let me not call you back. Let me disappear. Let me leave you hanging at the bar for our 3rd date." And she's just like, all these dudes, when they find this stuff out, just end up leaving me. Are you going to be one of them? One of those bad men? Right. And these men are, pride themselves. No, I'm not like that. I'm Mr. Good Guy. Watch this. And that's what gets you into a whole hell of a lot of trouble. There's nothing that says that you can't still have this person in your life as a friend, as a loved one. I'd meet you for a coffee. It was great meeting you. I like these things about you. You're a very interesting person. But as far as a romantic partner to me is concerned, no, that's a whole other level of involvement that, no, you're not the right person for that. Right. And if hearing that makes them fly off the handle and slash your tires or whatever, okay, you just dodged a bullet. But a mature person will say, all right, kind of heartbreaking, but I get it. And good knowing you. And maybe sometime we get together for coffee or whatever later. That's a mature response to that.
Well, and a mature woman is going to be able to be forthright with some of this stuff, with this history. And, you described the one that's just going to throw it out there because they don't want to, because they've been used before, because they've been walked away, whatever the circumstance. But a mature, and we're talking about, assessing the mental stability, a mature woman who does know her history is going to be forthright with this. If there is addiction, then she's going to talk about what the addiction is and what she's doing about it and what her plan is about it. And she's going to internalize the responsibility for it, that, this was something that was caused upset, discord, difficulties in my life. And this is why, this is what I'm doing to change that. And that can actually be, so that's a little bit different than what you described, which is throwing out the extreme example you used to just, make you say, "Oh, I'll white knight, right? I'll fix it. I'll fix you. I'll help fix it. I'm a nice guy," whatever, as opposed to somebody who's just open and forthright about and authentic about who they are and what their life is about and what they've been through, and why that can be a green flag. Or at least for me, it is a green flag, because that means somebody's been through some difficulties, is actually figured. If they haven't figured it out, they're trying to figure it out.
Exactly. So there's a difficult balancing act there, isn't there? What's what is good, what is bad, what's a red flag, what's a green flag, where are my boundaries, where do they begin and end? None of this is simple. No,
definitely not. Which leads us full circle to get connected with Ralph and one of his coaches. Get connected with me. If it's not one of us, get connected with somebody that can help you through this. And if it's not therapy, relationship coaches are good, or therapy and coaching is probably, I feel, the best possible situation, because it's the best of both worlds and takes things from a different perspective, and can lead to huge opportunities and growth. And I do want to say, what we just described as in those 3 categories, Ralph, is what Shawn describes as the Bright Triad. So stability, maturity, and clarity from a woman. So you see those things when you're asking these questions, and those are things that are potential for helping to create a healthy relationship with somebody.
You got it. And again, guys, you're not alone in this. For those that are like, I'm in this post-divorce dating thing, and this is all very confusing, and this is all just a little too much. Like you say, reach out for help. You're not alone. And we provide a lot of value. Guys like us. It doesn't necessarily have to be us in particular, but guys like us have been down this road, been there and done that. And we bring a lot of value to the table, I think.
Yeah. And where can they connect to it? Where can people connect with you and find the book too, The Red Flags? And I don't think I've read that yet, so I'm going to have to.
It's only available as like Kindle or some other PDF format, but not in paper format.
We're part of the fraternity, right?
Yeah, you get it if you're part of the DSO fraternity, which you can find at dadstartingover.com or dsofraternity.com. You get all these books you can read PDF format for free, no additional charge, or listen to the audio version right from your podcast app. In addition to live Zoom meetings, online discussion groups, members only podcasts, all kinds of cool stuff. We're having an in-person meetup here soon in Las Vegas in February. That's going to be pretty cool. Nice. And so learn more, dadstartingover.com.
Yeah, cool. And then also, if you're in the midst of a divorce or post-divorce, check out thedivorcedadvocate.com. We got all kinds of resources around that. The newly launched, aspiring to be like DSO and Ralph, the Divorced Advocate Brotherhood. And so check that out and the resources. But again, I'm just going to lift up and support what Ralph said, which is you don't have to go through any of this by yourself, whether it's divorce or just life or a challenging marriage or relationship or whatever it is. You know, Ralph and I have dedicated our lives. There's a lot of guys that out there that have dedicated their lives to helping to work through this stuff. And so there is community out there. There are guys that want to help through it. And so just take that first step and get connected. So
absolutely. Amen.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. Those are our 9 critical risk management questions for the dads dating after divorce. I thought I liked that a lot. So appreciate it.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Happy New Year. We'll
same to you.
We'll see everybody soon.
All right. Bye.
Take care.
Be the hero of your own movie. If your life was a movie and it started now, forget about whatever financial disasters you've had, personal failures, relationship